So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. Guys, Keith Thurman. Mr. Keith one. A lot of you been asking me about Keith Thurman. What's going on with Keith? I've been getting messages on Instagram. I got messages on on my YouTube channel as well, asking me, oh, where's Keith Thurman? What's Keith Thurman doing? Who's he fighting next? Keith Thurman has just called out the winner of Spence and Garcia. Keith Thurman really wants that fight. You know why? There's a world title waiting for him in Terence Crawford. If Keith Thurman gets realistic, Terence Crawford will take that fight in a heartbeat. But I think Terence Crawford now wants the Pacquiao fight because he feels that Keith Thurman isn't serious. If Keith Thurman goes to the table and he's actually serious about a Crawford fight, I believe Crawford would fight him in a heartbeat. But I don't believe, again, I have my doubts whether Keith Thurman is serious about that fight, because I think he is kind of one of them ones where he'll only take the Terence Crawford fight if the money's too good to be true, is too good to turn down. Otherwise, he won't take that fight. There's no way he takes that fight. I think he wants the winner of Spence Garcia, and he knows that that fight is more money, and is for the unified championship. So we know that you know, whoever wins the Spence and Garcia fight is going to be the unified champion. And I think Keith Thurman believes it's going to be Errol Spence. He believes Spence will beat Garcia, and he wants to fight Errol Spence for to win back what he feels was his. And what I mean by what he feels is his, he was once a unified champion. He no longer is. You know, he lost the WBC belt. It got stripped off him, and he lost the WBA belt in the fight that he had against Pacquiao, where he lost. So Keith Thurman has now got no belts. He's no longer the big player in the welterweight division. And that is burning Keith Thurman, because Keith Thurman was once the top dog in the welterweight division. All of a sudden, he's had his injury, he got stripped by the WBC, and now he's also lost the fight against Manny Pacquiao. So now Keith Thurman has nowhere to go he's nobody in the welterweight division now. He's not irrelevant. Nobody's talking about him. Nobody's talking about Keith Thurman as a force. They're talking him as an opponent, but they're not talking about him as a force. They're not talking about him as a relevant guy anymore. You know, I did a video the other day and I said I would love to see Terence Crawford against Keith Thurman, and people shot me down saying that no, we want to see the best fight the best. So people don't think Keith Thurman's the best anymore. That kind of disrespect towards it. This guy was once the top dog in the welterweight division. Everybody wanted to fight him. Terence Crawford wanted to fight Keith Thurman. Errol Spence wanted to fight Keith Thurman. They were all calling Keith Thurman's name. Now Keith Thurman's a nobody. He's just a guy that believes he's still a top dog and that everybody needs to fight him, but they don't. They don't. And he's trying to call out people and people like Spence now are saying, well, I don't need him anymore. That fight will never happen. Because when Errol Spence wanted that fight with Keith Thurman didn't want to know. Now that Errol Spence don't need Keith Thurman wants to know, and Errol Spence don't like that. Errol Spence is not happy about that. Errol Spence thinks that, why did this guy not fight me when there was an opportunity to fight me? He didn't want to know. I was chasing him. I went to America, won the belt from Kell Brook, went to UK, won the belt from Kell Brook, and yet he still didn't want to know. So Errol Spence thinks, why do I need to fight this guy? This guy is not serious. You know, when I was serious, when I wanted that fight, he declined it. So that really peed off Spence. That really peed off Spence. And Spence don't want to know now. So Keith Thurman's kind of left in a tricky position because nobody really cares about him. The only man that would probably fight him is Crawford, because Crawford hasn't got anybody to fight unless he can get a Pacquiao fight. So Thurman now is like, where do I go? He was calling out Conor McGregor not so long ago because he's desperate. He's desperate. Now, if Garcia wins, Garcia may face Keith Thurman, because Keith Thurman beat him. So I'm pretty sure Garcia may want to avenge that loss, but especially now where I think Thurman's a lot more vulnerable, and especially after that Lopez fight, I think a lot of people think they fancy a fight with Keith Thurman. So I don't know what the rematch clause situation is with this Spence Garcia fight, because he is a mandatory, but Spence holds 2 belts, so I'm pretty sure Garcia is not mandatory to both of them. So how will that work? Is there a rematch clause if Garcia does beat Spence? Does he have to rematch him? Nowadays, even rematch clause are even in the mandatory. When there's a mandatory challenger, Kubrat Pulev is a mandatory challenger for Anthony Joshua. And there's a rematch clause, I believe, in that. And there shouldn't be. That's nonsense. That's bull crap. And I'll tell you why. Because that means that if there's a rematch clause, that mandatory challenger has to face the champion again. And that's nonsense. That's nonsense. Fair enough. If it's a voluntary defense, there's no problem with that. But if a guy's worked his way up and got himself in a mandatory position, I think that's nonsense. Because if there is to be a rematch, there shouldn't be a rematch clause. Now, if there's a rematch clause with no splits and any of that determined prior, then I'm okay with it. Because I feel like, I personally feel like that the mandatory challenger should get the lion's share, or he should get majority of the purse. Not majority, but like he should get a big split in the rematch. And with a rematch clause, normally these things are already sorted out prior. So if the way I look at it, if someone like Pulev beats Joshua, he should only fight Joshua by choice, not having to fight Joshua, because I think it's nonsense. That's basically ruining the whole point of mandatories. Where the mandatory challenger worked himself in a position, and if he beats the champion, he doesn't need to fight the champion again. That's right. I think that's good. But again, with boxing, it's all about money. It's all about the powerful staying powerful, and generally the champions are the politically more connected fighters. So it's kind of just another string in the champion's bow, where if he loses even to a mandatory challenger, he gets a media rematch. But so with this Spence Garcia situation, let's see what happens in that fight. His fight is this week, which I'm very looking forward to. I can't wait. Keith Thurman needs to get himself in the mix, and Keith Thurman's a very good fight for Errol Spence. That's a dynamite fight, by the way. If Keith Thurman can get to his best, that's a dynamite fight. I favor Spence, but it's a dynamite fight. Keith Thurman's a very good boxer and a big puncher. That's a hard fight. That's not an easy fight. That's a very hard fight. Keith Thurman's a very good fighter. So I believe that's a fight that really makes a lot of sense. Whoever wins a fight with Keith Thurman definitely makes sense. I think if Garcia wins, I think Keith Thurman wants Spence to win. Because I think if Garcia wins, there may be a rematch. So Keith Thurman won't get a shot. I think he wants Spence to win. And then Spence might be in a position, if the Pacquiao fight don't come off, if the Crawford fight don't come off, Thurman knows that he's in prime position, because who's Spence really going to fight? Nobody wants to see Spence Ugas. Virgil Ortiz and all those guys aren't ready yet, really. So Thurman makes perfect sense. Perfect sense. So I think if the Crawford fight's not done right away, then Spence may even move up. Spence might vacate and move up after this fight. You don't know. Spence might move to 154. He looks drained, so he may move up to 154. And those belts may become vacant. And there may be an opportunity for people to fight for him. Someone like Virgil Ortiz, someone like that might become champion very quickly, because he's up there now. So let's see, man. Let's see what happens. But Keith Thurman needs to get himself in the mix. I think Keith Thurman, they were talking about if Pacquiao gets stripped, him fighting Ugas for the vacant fight. But again, that's a tough fight. I don't think Keith Thurman wants to take those risky fights. He already saw a fight against Lopez, right? And how that turned out. Lopez almost stopped him. So for me, I think Keith Thurman wants to fight the top. He just wants to go in there with the top boys right away, because he's thinking that I could get beat against someone like Ugas or Virgil Ortiz or some of these young bucks coming up. I might as well just take the challenge right away. I might as well take the leap and take the jump now, because it's not like him fighting Ugas is going to be an easy fight. It's a tough fight. And like I said, I wouldn't be confident Thurman beating Ugas. Ugas is a very good fighter. And Thurman's very vulnerable. Very vulnerable. We saw that in the Lopez fight. And Ugas is a better fighter than Lopez. So, to be honest with you, I don't know what I see what Keith Thurman's trying to do. Actually, I see what he's trying to do. He wants the Spence fight because he knows where he stands right now. He knows that these guys like Ugas, like Virgil Ortiz, these are hungry guys, and he doesn't want to be fighting them for the vacant title because you lose to them, you're done. So losing to Spence, you could say you lost to the best guy, and he can still come back from that. And who knows, Spence may not be the same guy. He may beat Spence. Also, Thurman's a good fighter. He's a very good boxer. He can punch. So that makes that fight exciting. Listen, I think Errol Spence is wrong. I don't think two wrongs make a right. Thurman was wrong what he did in the past, not fighting Errol Spence, and he was avoiding him. He was ducking Spence. But Spence shouldn't do the same and try to, because two rights don't make a wrong. Spence is gonna make himself look foolish because that's a legit fight. That's a legit fight, and it's a big fight, and it's a big money fight, and I think people would tune in for that. They would legitimately turn in for that fight. You know, that's a pay-per-view fight there in America that people would actually buy. You know, you've got two guys. One guy, Thurman, he talks well, he fights well. You know, Spence is also, he can talk. He's also fights. He's a great fighter as well. So, Spence should fight Thurman if he can. If he can make the weight and he's healthy and he can make 147, that fight should happen. Because I feel that Thurman is a legitimate challenge for Errol Spence. He's always been a guy that I thought is capable of beating Spence. I don't think he will. I think Spence, but I think he can. If he approaches the fight with the right game plan, he's more than capable. He is a very talented fighter, Keith Thurman. But again, he is vulnerable. We know his resistance to taking body shots, his chin is suspect. You know, and he doesn't look the same fighter that he once was. He doesn't have the same hunger, that same mindset that he once had. And that's why his two performances that coming back after the injury against Lopez and Pacquiao, he lost one of them and he almost lost the fight against Lopez. And really, a top welterweight shouldn't be losing to Josecito Lopez. You know, so personally, I think Keith Thurman is going to find it tough to become champion again. But again, I wouldn't rule him out. I still think he's a world-class fighter. I still think he's got great skills. And I think a fight between him and Spence should happen. But again, let's not rule out Garcia. Garcia might beat Spence. There's no guarantee. I expect Spence to win. But again, you know, in boxing, you never know. You know, we've seen bigger upsets than Spence Garcia. That's for sure. What do you guys think of Keith Thurman calling out the winner of Spence Garcia? Do you think he'll get that fight? Do you think he won't? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Let me know what you think, guys. And guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.